Hi folks, I already finished the video that you're about to see on hand sharpening your chainsaw chain. But I'm putting this kind of secondary video at the front because there's one thing that I neglected to mention that's very important. It should be common sense, but in this day and age, with everybody who wants to have a lawsuit and people claim that they're ignorant of how to do things, and Stanley Company having to put out a how-to video to teach millennials how to use tape measures, I don't want to assume anything. As I said, I have the saw against the vise so it can't go back. I have the chain brake on so that the chain can't move. I'm wearing gloves. The other thing is the saw is off. You never ever want to try to sharpen your blades with the saw on. Even with the chain brake on, you'd think, well, it should be safe because it can't turn. No, that's stupid. You always make sure your saw is off before you go anywhere near the chain and bar with your hands or any other body part. So I can't stress that kind of safety enough. Stay away from the business end of the chainsaw with anything that is made out of flesh, or you will be the loser. So just as I said, I forgot to mention that during the video you're about to see, but I want to emphasize that. Safety, safety, safety. Saw blade or saw off against something so it can't move, chain brake on so the chain can't turn, and gloves on so you don't cut your fingers. So if you follow those basic rules, then using a hand file will be safe and effective. Okay, enjoy the rest of the video. Hi folks, I promised you I'd give you a basic video on hand sharpening the chainsaw chain. As I said, I was in the woods cutting the shagbark hickory tree up, and both saws got dull. So I just want to do this one for right now to finish up that large branch that's left. But just a few tips. There are all kinds of guys that have all kinds of videos online about chainsaw sharpening. Oh, I saw Russians and Scotsmen and New Englanders and Southerners and everybody and their brother. So I'm not a huge expert on it, but I'll show you what I do and what works for me. I'll probably do another video at some point about the electric sharpener of the chainsaw too. But that requires taking the chain off, and I don't want to have to do that today. I can do this with this on. So for a couple things. First of all, I'm wearing gloves to protect my hands. Even though these tips are dull, they're still sharp, if you know what I mean. So we want to make sure I have the saw pushed back against my vise so it can't wiggle around on me. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the chain brake on so the blade can't turn. When I need to turn it, I will take that off and spin it, because I don't want any, well, I'll explain that as I go along. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this tooth right here with a blue marker. You can use whatever kind you can. That's going to remind me that's the first one I started with, because by the time I get all the way around I won't remember. Now you've got alternating sided teeth on a chain, of course, so I'm only going to do the ones on this side, or what would be the right side of the saw, this trip through. And then what I'll do is I'll start the other side. That way I don't get confused about what I've done or not done and so on, and my pressure is steady. Couple things you want to do. This is a cradle that holds this file. This file is sized for this kind of steel saw and blade. It is a 30-degree angle on the teeth, and it says that here. And if you notice, there are two little lines on this cradle. And what I want to do when I go to file is I want to make sure the one line is parallel with the bar, because then I know I'm filing at the correct angle. If I get off a little bit, it's going to be uneven and your cut will be all kinds of weird. So you want a nice straight filing pattern, and you want to file each tooth as exactly the same as you possibly can. So that means keeping equal pressure, equal angle, and equal strokes. Now, I think for where this blade is, 3 strokes per tooth should do it. It's not highly damaged or anything. If I had some teeth in here that were a bit more damaged, what I would do is I'd file more strokes to get rid of that. The only thing is, you have to make sure you use the same number of strokes each tooth, even if one is more worn than another, because you're going by not how much life is left in the tooth, you're going by the angle and the sharpness of the cutting edge. So they all have to be the same, and that's what you're doing. You're not working the whole tooth, you're just basically resharpening the front edge. So you have to do the exact same filing on all of them so that you have a balance, so that the saw blade will cut sharp but also cut even. You don't want it to pull to the right or the left or jump around on you. You want it to go through your wood like a hot butter knife through butter. Of course, it doesn't quite work that easy, but that's the plan. You know, you want something that's going to be good and smooth when you use it. So I'm going to take my file cradle here, and if you notice, I'm putting it on the one that I marked blue so I remember. My first thing is, okay, you see my line is lined up with, it's exactly parallel with the bar. That's the angle I want to keep. So what I want to do is 1, 2, 3. Probably do one more because that first one was a little bit shaky. So again, I line up my angle, and even when you're out here you can eyeball that you're approximately parallel. So just like that. Okay, so that one should be done. Now I jump back to the next one that's facing the same way, and I'm holding onto the bar here. Some people clamp these in a vise. I guess you can do that, but I don't have time to do that now, so I'm just holding it. I know the blade isn't going anywhere because the chain breaks on, so or the chain is not going anywhere. So 1, 2, 3. And then on these types of chains, these steel brand chains, you sometimes have 2 teeth that are running on the same side. I guess that has to do with the length of the chain. I've seen that in the 16-inch. I've seen that in my 18-inch. I don't know. There's probably a reason for that. But just so you don't miss it, you're not always alternating. With these two, you're not. You're going consecutive. And you notice I'm only filing in one direction. I'm not going back and forth. I'll grab a hold of this tooth that I just sharpened, release my chain brake, and pull that to the very front. So I know that's the one I just sharpened. I don't need to worry about that now. I'm going to jump to this one. Put the chain brake back on. Three again. Again. If your blade isn't terribly dull or damaged that you have to use your power sharpener, this is a whole lot quicker because you don't have to take the chain off. You don't have to work it through the sprocket on that because you have to advance it very slowly, and you're doing one tooth at a time. Then you have to turn the angle on the thing. Well, you'll see it when I do it. But if you need a better sharpening job, your blade's in bad shape, or you really have to hone it up, then you want to use the power grinder. Okay, again, I'm finished with this set, so I'll take my chain brake off, pull my chain up, and again it's to the front. I know that's where I ended. Again, line up my angle. And this is a steel cradle and steel file too, so I know that it's made for this particular saw and chain, so there should be no problem with this working well because it's designed for this particular. You just have to make sure that your angle is the same. If you have a different brand chain or a different type of chain, it might not be 30 degrees, it could be 25 or something else. You just have to make sure you have the right angle when you're doing it. So and what I will do after a while is I'll rotate this file because I'm using the same edge on here. After a while those little burrs on the thing will wear away, and then the other side is still, you know, fairly aggressive, so you want to make sure that you get full use out of the file. You don't want to pitch it just because one side is worn. To the front again, and now if you look, here's my blue tooth, so all I have are a few left on this side. So again, I start with where I finished here. Okay, that one's done, so I just have to do these. Okay, so that's one half of this chain sharpened. Now what I'm going to do then is I'm going to have to turn my file like this for the other side. I'll still use my blue tooth as my reference there, or my marked tooth I should call it. And then I just have to make sure that my angle line on this side is parallel with the bar so that it's 30 degrees. And then I'll do the same thing I just did. I'll work my way through, move it ahead, work my way through, and that's all there is to it. If you just need to sharpen up your chain a bit, that it got a bit dull on you, this is the simplest, easiest way. I mean, you'll see loggers carrying one of these things in their back pockets in the woods, and if they're running into an issue, they'll just stop for a few minutes. Sometimes the guys will just sit while they're having their lunch break filing their saw chain. So it does work. You just have to take your time, try to be consistent with both your pressure, your angle, and your number of strokes, and you should get a pretty balanced, sharp chain to get back at your cutting. So thank you for watching, and we'll have more videos on firewood, I'm sure, till we get through this season of getting it all together for the winter. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel.